The same thing happened in the Great Depression, by the way, because the start of the thing was the contraction in the money supply, and then the Smoot-Hawley tariffs were put in, and that really did a job on the whole thing. So it was kind of a 1-2 punch, just like we have now. Of course, the money supply contracted a lot more in the Great Depression than it has prior to today. That's one thing, and also the Smoot-Hawley tariff actually is more or less what looks like the general tariff level is going to be with Trump. I mean, so Trump's tariffs are very radical.
Yeah. Tell me about it. It's anywhere from 10, 15%, it seems, as a baseline to as high as 40 or, 140% if you pertain that. I
Yeah,
mean,
well, if you look at the weighted average of the whole thing, it's just a tad over what it was with the Smoot-Hawley tariffs. So it's very significant and way out of line with what was going on, what's been going on, because the effective tariff rates have been coming down for decades,
mhm.
and were basically de minimis. I mean, the overall weighted average is something like 2% or something like that. Very tiny. And the tariffs, of course, one reason, there are many reasons that the tariffs slow things down, but one reason is that they're the biggest sales tax increase on Americans that we've ever had. In fact, one of the biggest tax increases we've ever had. People don't talk about that.
No.
The Trump likes to let people think foreigners pay the tariffs. Foreigners don't pay. But if you import something, Andy, you pay.
Consumer pays.
Well,
Yeah.
let's put it, to be precise, the importer pays.
The importer pays. Yeah.
The importer pays. And then what the importer, sometimes those imports are sold directly to consumers. Other times they're sold as intermediate inputs into some production process or something. I mean, you could be importing screws or something, and they're sold to somebody that uses screws to manufacture something.
Right. So, with all of this information here, it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like we're making, or Trump's making, the same mistakes as Roosevelt did, or really going into the Great Depression.
Yes, I would characterize it that way in general, although the kinds of things the new dealers were doing were with the exception of the tariff aspect, but and the Smoot-Hawley tariff actually came from Congress, so you can't put that really on the back of the new dealers, say, but everything else the new dealers were doing, uh, revamping the whole idea of government, all the rules governing business and antitrust and regulations, all of those things.
Yeah, I really appreciate how you framed it. It makes me think, because the what we're getting now out of the administration is like, like everybody else, how are we going to pay for all of these new programs? And I don't think they've cut really any programs. They cut some, but anyways, they want to pay for a bunch of stuff. Well, the tariffs will pay for it, but it sounds eerily similar to all of the social programs and different programs they had that the new dealers were putting on in 29.
Yeah, it is similar, and of course the tax, the tariffs, that tax. Name one tax that ever stimulated anything. They
Right.
they drag things down. I mean, if if you sell me something, Andy, and I'm willing to buy it, pay the price, and so forth, what they're gains from trade. That's what economists call gains from trade, because Andy benefits, or he would have never sold it to Hanke, and Hanke benefits, or he never would have bought the stuff. And now the government comes in with a tariff, and what's the tariff do? That that eliminates some gains from trade, and that revenue goes into the U.S. Treasury to finance the government, and it interrupts, certainly at the margin, with trade and stops trade because the the marginal traders, let's just assume our exchange was done where there were very thin margins. You benefited very little from selling, and I benefited very little from buying. And the tax could be greater than those gains you had and I had. And then if that was the case, the trading between us would stop.
Right.
It wouldn't continue. So that's in a kind of a simple-minded way. That's what goes on with tariff. It's a sales tax.
Yeah.
And huge sales tax, by the way.
Yeah.
There aren't states that have sales taxes that are that high.
No, well, maybe California. Yeah. No, I live in Georgia, and I believe it bounces between 4 and 7%, which 7% is still very high. Um, let me ask you, this is obviously just from an investment standpoint, a trading standpoint, this is not obviously good for equities. Um, and again, going back to similar, and I'm not trying to project too much, but I remember if you go back in 28 and 29, you had this huge massive rush. The last part of that leg was a blow off top. And it seems eerily similar again today. Again, not making a prediction that you're having this blow off top here with really just a handful of stocks holding up the market.
Well, that's true. I have a bubble detector that I use. Calculate whether the market's overvalued, undervalued, so forth. So that bubble detector is as high as it's ever been, and that suggests that the market is in bubble territory. But the big problem is that you I can measure a bubble, and I can tell you every one that's ever occurred. The thing is, I can't tell you one of two things. I can't tell you, one, whether the bubble's going to pop, or whether normal valuations will be reached again by air just slowly coming out of the bubble over time. So I don't know if it's going to pop. I don't know if air is going to come out slowly, and I have no idea when it's going to start. So you can measure where we are and anticipate something is some of that air is going to come out, but when and how, there's no way.
Well, I had your friend Dave Cullum on yesterday, and we actually talked about that, and we made the analogy actually to the Soviet Union. And he's a deep value guy in measurement and his own portfolio. And it was like, this can go on for decades. Things can go on for decades. We just never know what it will stop, or as you alluded to, when the air will be let out. But the thing is that it stopped.
Right. The markets will adjust, but exactly when the adjustment starts and the modalities and course that it will take, it's you can forget it.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit. I was talking to, again, Dave yesterday, and I want to make sure I get this correct. The video is dropping tomorrow. But he mentioned you and alluded to that you're the currency guy and knowing your background in currencies. And I want to weave BRICS into this. And he says BRICS is not about currencies. It's about contractual, and I'm paraphrasing here, obligations between companies that want to trade. Can you comment about that? And what is your opinion on the BRICS, and how does the BRICS fit into all of this in the new global economy?
Well, first of all, I agree with my good friend Dave Cullum that they BRICS is, think of it this way, it's kind of a talk shop right now.
Right.
And I think with Trump and the tariffs, it will evolve more into something substantive that pushes back, because the BRICS, they think they're under attack, and they are, because if you look at some of the BRICS countries, they're sanctioned. Now, sanctions are just a weapon of war And I would argue that tariffs, or certainly secondary tariffs, are also a weapon of war. So the BRICS are being attacked by the United States. That's what's going on. And the United States, Uncle Sam is not, you know, following Uncle Sam. Their current Uncle Sam in the White House certainly hasn't read Dale Carnegie and doesn't know how to win friends and influence people. He's
Right.
he's making a lot of enemies, and number one on that list would be probably India, maybe two, the European Union, but definitely India, and I think BRICS, especially you're having Prime Minister Modi will go to see Chairman Xi in China. It's the first time the Indian Prime Minister has even gone to China in 7 years. He's
Right.
going. He's going in the next couple of weeks. So that gives you an idea that they're they're trying to figure out how to circle the wagons and integrate themselves in a more effective way. So you can see, I think, a stronger link between Russia, China, and India, which are, you know, three big countries, obviously huge geographic and pretty big economically. So I think the talk shop will become less talk and more action. But right now, back to the currency thing, they've been talking about a BRICS currency, but they don't have any plan. They don't. I don't think they know what the word plan means. I mean, they're talking about setting up a commodity exchange, for example. But in fact, if you look under the hood, they don't have any plan, and they haven't even decided if they have a commodity market, where will it be located? What town? What country? How will it operate? I mean, so it's a lot of gas,
Right.
but I think very significant, because attack that Uncle Sam has placed on these members of BRICS, or the global South, if you want to put it that way, they do feel like they're under attack, and they are under attack with the weaponization of tariffs and the imposition of sanctions and the weaponization of the U.S. dollar. So they I think will move more towards proactive, or shall we say counterattack. It's